the meeting for Bedford Township for June 6, 2023. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Get my mic set up here. Okay, at this time, if we could have Pastor Brenner Trepovich with Lewis Avenue Baptist Church open us up in prayer.
Sure will. Thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for another beautiful Michigan night. And thank you for this place that you've given us and the leadership that we have before us tonight. We ask for wisdom and knowledge, Lord, and understanding in the decisions that we're going to be making tonight, as well as anything else we're going to be hearing. And I ask that you please guide us through the process, help us to follow a clear process and be clear and concise in all the things that we do. And we ask that you please provide for the needs of the township as needed. And we ask that you please help us the rest of the year and the rest of the weeks ahead and everything that is planned. We ask that you help us to do everything decently and in order. And thank you for being good to us. Keep us with your protection, and we ask for your safety. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time we'd look for a motion to open a public hearing for FY 2024 general fund budget.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Janizek to open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak? This is public.
Can I do the roll call?
Oh, call the roll.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek? Aye. Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed. Anybody like to speak on the public hearing?
Huh? Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Admittedly, this is not my best topic, but I've got some questions. And while the packet is pretty, it's not what we normally were used to, but it's clearly a political moment, and that's okay. However, the verbiage on the cover page is more or less a pile of half-truths. Sorry, but that's it. I see the packet is also in two parts. Can we get a better explanation of why? In voting, are you only approving the numbers and not the packet as a whole? I do see that it takes two resolutions. Also, each meeting should have been televised and held at night for public attendance, or at least divided up. And this would have allowed the entire board to be present at some points in time. I'm looking for clarification in the differences of the duties of the treasurer versus the assessing department in regards to our taxes. I think there's a lot of confusion with that. My other points are general fund. Department 265 should probably be split for better clarification. That's a very large thing, and it's not itemized on your papers in the packet. Department 707, a TAP grant for 2023. Where's that going? 966, the transfer out. What? 426, EMD management increase. Why? 450 roads. Is the roundabout ruse hidden in this? Number 751, the expenditures. But when did we acquire a Parks and Rec department? The money handling would not demand a title change, and this should be under the elected officials of the parks. Oh dear, I hope it's not a crooked carrot. But per the parks, the master plan, which as to date has not been approved, they are one arm under the township. The rec is another, and it's under the school control. We can discuss this when that meeting takes place at the next meeting. Then there's the funds section, and I guess this is where I get confused. Number 208 is the parks are bringing in more than they're spending. Number 246, what is community stabilization versus the listing of Department 705? Number 285 shows that our ARPA money will be spent by 2024, but I'm not certain that the listing in the other part of it is clearly what it's going to be spent on, because there was money left that was going to be left to the discretionary spending of the supervisor. Number 248 is DDA, and number 494 is DDA. So why two? And there's nothing noted about the DDA in the general fund, even though I know that money comes in from their taxes. Is that part of the tax or the assessing? The revenues for DDA, although they will be giving an explicit and detailed report, there needs to be full disclosure, I believe, through the budget as well. And again, the televised meetings would help, and maybe it would have been a good thing to have a separate meeting for these budget portions from the general township meeting. The public would then be able to get a better understanding, and the discussion would be a little bit more disclosing, and it would be more in a public nature. And I believe that this is a duty that you should be providing to us. And again, Bob, thanks. You always do a good job. That's it.
Any more public comments? Okay. All right, motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
Support. Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek? Aye. Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Bob?
Good evening. Something new this year is the transmittal letter, which is drafted to reflect the Governmental Finance Officers Association's best practices in budgeting. Expanding on the excellent work that we have accomplished may allow for future recognition. In your packet, I'll be starting on page 10, the transmittal letter. It should also be on your screen.
Bob, just so you know, our packet, that transmittal's page 9, so there's a numbering difference.
Oh, page 9, I'm sorry. You are correct, page 9. The line item approach was used when developing the proposed budget and shall be adopted at the revenue by source and expenditure by activity level. The activity level is the department level. Revenue. 82% of the proposed budget's revenue is derived from state shared revenues, 64%, and the property taxes, 18%. The other revenue is other revenue. The revenue sharing payments are composed of two components, constitutional distribution and statutory distribution. The constitutional distribution is mandated by the state constitution and distributed on a per capita basis to cities, villages, and townships. The amount of the constitutionality of mandated revenue sharing component distributed to the township can vary depending on the population of the township and receipt of sales tax revenues by the state. I'm now going to go ahead and scroll down to the fund activity. We'll talk about funds for a little bit. This will be on page 13. We had 4 major fund changes within the budget time frame here. The building department, has become self-sustaining. So the building department has been moved to the building fund. It moved out of the general fund to its own fund. The Parks Fund was moved to the Parks and Recreational Department in the general fund. Without a parks millage or sufficient revenue sources, the Parks and Recreation Department will be unable to self-sustain and will be dependent on the general fund for support. The Special Assessment Debt Service Fund was formed to create a legacy lending source for special assessment districts, SADs. SADs need to seek funding from the township, banks, or bond issues. If the township can provide lending, it will provide significant savings for the SADs through a reduction in rates and fees to its participants. This will also allow the township to invest in the community. Next page is the Township Improvement Revolving Fund. This fund will provide funding for the newly structured Bedford Township Capital Improvement Plan, the CIP. The CIP is a multi-year plan prepared and maintained by the Planning Commission and will include a detailed list of long-term assets that need to be purchased by the township in the future. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down to the next page, page 15. I'll make a comment in conclusion on here a little bit. The Bedford Township's financial statements are strong, and the township is well positioned for the future by maintaining an unassigned general fund balance of at least 6 months of operating expenses. The Bedford Township Board is committed to remain vigilant and act strategically to anticipate any possible governmental, economic, or global risks that may occur. I'd also like to thank Angie, Nancy, Trudy, and Krista for their assistance in creating this transmittal letter. And members of the board, I present to you the proposed FY24 budget for your consideration.
Comments, questions?
I would just say, I appreciate the way that this packet's put together. Just some of the information at the beginning I thought was a nice touch, and obviously you put a lot of time into putting a professional presentation together, and I appreciated that.
Welcome.
And everything else looks good as approved through budget meetings.
Past 8 years, I mean, it's night and day from where we've been, where we've come from. You know, public couldn't understand it. Questions for the board, not totally understanding you know what I mean? It was just, it's night and day. So we really appreciate it. So.
Yeah, and Bob, again, like everybody said, nice job here. It is clean, it's straightforward. Obviously, if anybody does want to see line item detail, that can be obtained because it is public information. Yeah, real good high level is what we need. I mean, we got the budget information. We sat with the meetings. Obviously, we all discussed it during those meetings, so there shouldn't be any hidden things here or things that we didn't know about. I think we're all aware of everything that's in here. Just a little bit of an off topic. I know for many, many years we sat on a AAA plus rating. You, by chance, or maybe down from the clerk or treasurer or supervisor, know what kind of rating we stand today? What do we hold in our financial ratings? I mean, I've got to believe we've got to be still up there, but just wondering.
I can look into it. I don't know off the top of my head.
Just if you could look into it, I think we're probably still there, but it also helps us when we do bonds and things like that.
It's usually the only time it comes up
Right.
is when we bond, and we haven't bonded anything because the township has had money to loan to the SADs, so we didn't have to go out and bond it and add that additional cost. So that's where the rating comes in.
Eventually,
There should be no reason why it would have went down other than up over the years, the way we're sitting with that 6 month fund,
I can inquire on it.
because I'm sure there's going to be a day and a time where we'll have to bond something again sooner or later. Just depends on what it's for. So, just something to wonder.
I will say there's very few townships sitting in the position this township is in.
That is correct.
6 months fund balance and the reserves, and the position our community's in as a whole with the roads and where we're at with the work we've done, we're in a very good position.
Well, we did back during COVID, we had some cuts. Our money did get down lower than that 50%, which a lot of us felt strong about getting it back up there, and that's where we're at today. So that's a good thing.
Okay. All right, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2024 budget as proposed. Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll?
That's what I just,
General fund.
that's what I was asking. Is it two?
We'll clarify.
Two
General
motions,
fund.
okay.
Okay, could you call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek? Aye. Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing for the other funds budget, or we don't need it for both? We're going to talk on both? Okay. Bob?
General fund was same.
Okay, other funds budget?
Yeah, that's the same. It just needs a motion.
All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, look for a motion.
Make a motion to accept the other funds budget 2024 as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Ms. Janizek, any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate
Bob.
it. You're welcome.
Now that it's been approved, we will place it on the website, the full version, so it will be up on the website for anyone.
Number 2, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 3, the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file, A, the minutes from the May 16th, 2023 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board, B, the resignation of Kevin Harms from the Bedford Fire Department effective immediately, and C, the resignation of Adam Pickard from the Bedford Fire Department effective immediately.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is submitted. Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Mr. Gore, any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. We have no presentations tonight. Number 5 is public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. State your comment you'll be speaking on.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I'm here, Mr. Supervisor, to talk about 8E. I suggested some time ago that you could probably use MTA and SEMCOG to probably get some of this information since you already pay for services from them. But I see here tonight that you've got some outside help that you want to do. I think it's a waste of dollars and cents, but that's neither here nor there. I will say, though, I've looked at these proposals, and I don't know which one you're going to take, but there's one of them for estimated $18,000. I can tell you that on the Mental Health Board, of which I'm a member, we have 120 employees. We had a service done for just a few $1,000s more than this. We had the entire system looked at. I think that's atrocious. I think the other one for $15,000 is also out of bounds. And if you wanted to, just give the employees this money rather than spend money trying to find out what they're worth. I know they're worth a lot. They are worth a lot of money because they are the ones who provide the service here. And they work for the 2 full-time people. And so it's probably wise that you determine what their value is in terms of dollars and cents. But I don't know about spending $18,000 or $15,000 to go find out about that, or maybe even $7,000. I just think there are alternative ways to find it. Thank you.
Any more comments?
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. We'll start with 8B. The Michigan Township dues. How many times has this board spoke poorly about the use of this or having the information needed to them? through this. So I can't imagine why we should be paying for something if we're not going to use it. And I'm curious, true or false, was the newly elected park board members given the right to attend the MTA meeting for newly elected people? See, this is one of the uses for this group. And do we take advantage of it? 28C, the BZA and planning fees. These are, again, two separate issues. And I got confused, sorry about that, but that's what happens. That's what normal people do. They get confused and they ask questions. So my question is that are they adding that $300 on top of the $555 for the BZA? It didn't make sense to me. It cost $555, so why would we only be charging $395? So that was the question there. And again, the board reps get paid to sit at these meetings from the way it looked on the paper. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Those two jobs take a lot of time. And the escrow, I don't know who gets that, or does it go back to somebody? The planning fees, as always, Jody's done a really good job tightening it all up and giving it all that different stuff. But I'm curious. With the BZA, it seems to be that no matter who comes before there, we've got people that aren't following the rules. So why do we even have to have these boards? To 8E, the compensation committee. The $18,000 was for HR, but I thought they didn't give a bid. And they actually sound like headhunters. Amy Sell Talent on page 4 basically says the township's going to do this, 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 and this. So why would we pay? If the township can do it, then the township should do it. We could and should be. It's based in Michigan and very local, IPSI. And the last group sounds like this is the favorite. And so it almost sounds like we're going to be paying for HR services. I still don't see the real need, but note that ARPA money is just sitting there and you want to spend it. So we've wasted it in other areas. Why not throw it at something else more odd just to get it spent? There was mention that we had in the packet that there's, in the talks, that there's 2 employees who are titled the same but do different jobs. This happens all over. Look at the work in a hospital. You'll have the same titled person and they have different job duties, even though their titles are the same. This happens all over. It should not require that they get different monies. In the meantime, if they don't really like it, I suppose they could get themselves a union. And the other thing is I didn't see any place on any of those papers where there was any familial disclosure papers. So that's certainly something that needs to happen. The one of them had a multitude of people that worked for him. As to H8G, it's just odd that we're going back to the building and cars park could be considered too as a third option. There's a way that you could work around all the issues with that. If we're going to be comparing all the different options that we could have for maintenance. I do agree that it's better to go back to downtown. It's going to be a problem here. 8H, I didn't see where the fire department or anybody gave their approval for the plans. So again, that's a whole different issue, and usually there's a site plan approval that goes with that. So you're going to give the permit, but you don't have you got the cart in front of the horse, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all for your comments very much. Okay, moving on to AA, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $308,944.50. Fire District, $16,192.89. Fire Equipment, $355.37. Downtown Development, $3,046.15. Library Operating, $14,017.39. American Rescue Plan, $40,058.63. Whitman Drive SAD, $1,193. Township Improvement and Revolving Fund, $9,175. DDA, $7,538.26. Building Department, $1,825.51. Sewer O&M Fund, $2,087.15 for a grand total of $404,433.85.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Januzak. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner? Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, Michigan Townships Association dues. Anybody have any comments, questions? I know for myself and my deputy, we use the MTA on a regular basis, probably a weekly basis. So I'm not sure about the other departments, but Phil doesn't get a lot of business because of it, so. Sorry, Phil.
I've taken quite a few classes on it.
All the classes and, any employee, any elected official within the townships, free to use it. So I think it's money well spent. So.
And to answer the question, yes, the park board was allowed and told about the new officials, and they chose not to attend.
Okay. Steiner?
And then, from my recollection, I believe in the last couple years, we opted out of the legal defense fund. And then I also believe, didn't we go to the premium pass?
Yes.
So all classes are covered instead of an ad hoc basis. So we'd have to add that 19 to the 87.76.
Correct. It ends up. Correct. So we have $10,421.
Didn't wear my glasses.
Okay.
Okay, look for a motion.
Are the classes being utilized?
Yes, I utilize them all the time to keep up my education on my.
Okay, I would assume.
Certification.
I would assume your guys' departments would, but I just wanted to verify.
We try as often as we can. I mean, it's a lot of times they don't have the classes we need. It's just like our maintenance guys all just got certified in spraying for weeds, but we couldn't get classes through the MTA, so we had to go to the community college. So we always try MTA first, but so.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'm for them as long as for the premium pass as long as they're being utilized.
Okay. We have a motion and a support.
We do?
We have a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the MTA membership as presented with $8,521 as the main payment, declining the legal defense fund. The total would be adding the $1,900 for the premium pass. So let's see, it's $10,421 total.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Hirschberger. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, update Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning and Zoning Fee Schedule. Ms. Hirschberger?
So, Jody worked on this. We have been working on this for quite a while. The fees right now are not covering what we're charging. So, in a sense, the taxpayers are covering the rest of it. So if we change these fees and bring them up to what Jody has presented, this will cover all the fees, all the expenses for these different meetings. As far as escrow, some of the escrows are being raised because they're not covering everything. So a variance, we were charging $275. We're increasing it to $375. The publications alone have doubled in price. And just to stop for a second and go back, these prices, these amounts have not been changed. We went back and looked. I can't find anything in over 15 years. So it's been a long time since we looked at these fees to get them changed. Planning Commission determinations, $200. reviewing meetings with township engineer, planner, or township attorney, $500 escrow. Now, how an escrow works, for those who don't know, we collect this money, we use that money to pay for the engineer, the planner, the attorney. If there's anything left after, then the person who gave the escrow would get that back. It's just to try and cover all the costs so that the township is not paying for anything. Another thing we're changing, rezoning, contractional rezoning. We increased the escrow to $1,500. Agricultural estates we removed because we no longer need that. Let's see, final plat. We've changed a lot in the PUD mobile home park subdivision to include language, each additional plan submission, additional submitted $500 fee, $1,000 escrow. Instead of $500, we're going to change it to $1,500 additional escrow to cover streetlight assessments, public hearings, publications, any additional expenses with the final plat. Again, like I said, the publication notices, since this was enacted, have probably doubled or if not tripled in cost. And then GIS services, just to collect what we're using, the ink and everything for that plotter. 8.5 by 11, we're increasing to $5. The 11 by 17, we're increasing to $5. And then the 24 by 36, we're increasing to $15. We're going to remove the 24 by 36, the 36 by 48, and we're going to remove the upstream sanitary studies. We are also removing the digital map bundles on CD because we no longer do those.
Okay, comments, questions?
Just comment, Jody's talked about some of these fees for a while and saying how we were upside down on them. I know she's done a lot of deep dive work on this, and obviously, as Trudy just said, if they can't find anything, that these have been increased for 15 plus years. Whether it's increased last year or 15 years ago, if we're not covering our costs, we still need to do it. So it's the right thing to do to make sure that we don't disperse these costs to the rest of the township.
Okay. I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the fee schedule proposal as presented by the Township Planning Department.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Janizek. Any more discussion? I just want to thank Jody for all her hard work. A lot of these things that we're talking about, like this right now, it's been needed to be done for years. Same thing with her working on the sign ordinance. It's all above and beyond what she does on a daily basis. So I just appreciate you coordinating that with her and getting it done. So,
Paul, just real quick, I know we all have a habit of talking about the department head right away, but I just want to say Jody and Katrina because, these other people work on it too. So I just want to make sure we recognize them too. It's probably a good idea because I know they put a lot of hard work in and they help, the leads in the department.
all right. Thank you, Katrina. Okay. All right. Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janizek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8D, accept bids for township vehicles. I'm requesting the board to approve the bid from Rick Bofia for township vehicles. Anybody have any questions?
Pretty
To
straightforward.
be honest with you, I think we could, if we tried harder, sat on these longer, we could probably get more money for them. But to be honest with you, they just got to go.
I gotta go.
They're taking up space in the parking out back.
And insurance.
Insurance,
They're sitting here
it just
to
keeps
insure
adding up. I think, the 2014 four-door Ford Expedition, that's a really good deal for that. Somebody could stick an engine in that but so we're not in the business of that. But, so yeah, we tried, we put it out there and this is what we got. So, okay, I look for a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the bid from Rick Bofia for the township vehicles.
Support. Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8F, approval for a compensation study.
E.
Is that E? Okay, EF, yep. I got it circled, so. Okay. Ms. Hirschberger, your department's kind of taking the lead on putting it out there for bid. I know we had this approved, and, this has been something that personally I think has been needed to be done for a long time. In the past, we have gone to MTA, but they no longer have updated salaries and studies, so.
Can I make a comment on that? I just checked today. Unfortunately, with MTA, the only way you can get a good study is if the other townships put their information in. When I looked today, there were only 5 that submitted it.
And were they comparable to us even?
Not really, they were
but
all over the place.
what-
That's the thing, is it's a gamble anyways.
Right.
You don't know what they're comparing their numbers to.
Well, but if you
You
look
know
at
what I'm
their,
saying?
if you look at their revenue base and all that and the population, I mean, that gives us an idea, or whether they're town, general law, charters, et cetera, so.
But it's still a little
They're all
bit of
different.
guesswork in it.
Yeah.
They're all guesswork. You don't know, do they have their benefits package higher? It's a lot of guess. So plus 5 isn't, we checked a while ago and there was, so that's why,
Yeah,
we can't just go with
It would be a
MTA and-
really good source if everyone put their information in
Right.
and it was very detailed. Then it would be a great source, but not when you have 5 that have submitted and no one else has.
And if it's updated regularly. You don't know that either.
Well, it's only updated once a year.
Yeah, so.
That's it.
Right.
Anybody have any comments, questions about the 3 bids?
Well, we've obviously got a few bids in here. The biggest ones and the most information provided looks like GovHR. Their number's at 15.3. The other one is $18,053. That's the HR Solution Group.
Personally, were you done?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and then I know Amy's Cell in here, but I didn't see an actual number on Amy's Cell.
I think she was
7,800.
78.
7,800. Yeah, my recommendation was to go with Amy Sell.
How did I miss her number?
She's a qualified CPA. She's located in Ypsilanti.
But we're going to have to do all the work,
Yeah.
everything. Can I say that I talked to Bob about this, since he's the one who wanted this to begin with? He talked about getting this going. Bob, do you want to comment? Because you looked it over. You're the one who gave us most of the information here.
You are correct. With Amy Cell, we would have more labor for us to do. GovHR, they would provide more information.
Can you expand on the more labor?
Yes.
A little more detail with that.
If you go to Amy's quote, let me pull that out for you. There are, I think she has a list of to-dos on page 4 of her proposal. Those would be the to-dos that we would have to provide. It is, in my opinion, it's one of these things, it's you get what you pay for. Between Amy Cell and GovHR. GovHR does specialize in municipalities. I know they are not in the state of Michigan per se, but all their references, they provided a list of Michigan references. They all would work. I think it's just a matter of you get what you pay for.
And I'll tell you, Paul, I was leaning towards this one too, until Bob looked through it and said, but this is doing what we're already doing now. We're going out, we're trying to find these comparable cities in Michigan, and
Well, so when I looked at that, the description of resources, to me, the way I read it, it seemed, I did not read any of that as being labor-intensive things. like, I feel like they're simple requests. Can you be available for meetings? Like, that you're
That
committing
one's
to,
simple.
we can be available. Provide input in creating a list of comparable cities. I took that to mean if they can ask some questions, okay, well, what's your population? You know what I mean? Just basic, we're going to give them some input so that they can go do, I feel like we're providing some information. That's how I took the description of resources, was that we're available to provide them the information that they would need to go do the work. I didn't seem any of that to seem like this is going to be labor intensive, costing, that would take a ton of time and effort. I wouldn't think. That's the way I read the description of resources, is that they're just putting it in their quote so that there's an agreement that they can request that information from us. That's how I took it. Like we're provide. It's all provide. Provide and be available. Provide and be available. It doesn't seem like a go do the work. It seems like if we would ask a question, you're willing to lead us down the path.
And that's kind of where I was looking at with it as well. But if Trudy, you're thinking with us even providing what we're providing, do you not feel comfortable with what she's offering here? Is
Like
that
I
kind of
said,
where you're at as well?
I was kind of going towards this one until Bob gave his input. So I'd like him to give his input.
Did you actually talk to any of these providers? Maybe that could provide more clarity, but I think they would all do a good job. You might get more bang for the buck if we spend a little bit more money. The GovHR does provide some on-site visits, but all three of them will provide what we're looking for.
So why are you recommending for us?
Well, I'm not recommending any.
I'm kind of getting that feeling. So
I'm just saying we'll get more bang. You get more detail. I didn't read these here in the last few days or so, but I believe GovHR, I think if you look in some of their, I'm trying to find the,
Because it seems like being willing to be available and to provide information seems reasonable when you're talking about a $10,000 swing, is the way that I think about it. Like
I'm not really interested in GovHR. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not really
you've got two of them based in Illinois. You know what a disaster that is. Companies are leaving because of that liberal mecca. And then you have the one lady's in. I wouldn't even want to see this in anyone's resume because it shouldn't even come into point. But she makes sure to point out how she's passionate about diversity, inclusion, and women in government, history behind the low number of women. I want the best qualified person, not just because you're some minority group or different group or not included. I don't care. I don't, whatever makes you happy, I don't care, as long as you can do the job. I don't even want to see that on someone's resume. So if it comes to GovHR, I'm not going to support it.
I have no interest in GovHR.
yeah, I'm not recommending any of them.
other than us providing more time and effort and information for Amy, we're not going to get a better product in the end, you feel, with a different company.
We will get what we're looking for through Amy, I believe, but I also believe.
Why would we go with anybody different at $10,000?
That's what I said. We'll get our answer with the $10,000. You might get more products and services in a long term. I was sort of called up here unexpected a little bit, so I didn't plan a whole lot.
Well, I mean, would you like us
yes.
to table it?
No, oh, heck no. I would say all three of these, you're going to get what we're looking for. It's just what you get, what you pay for. You get a little bit more out of the higher fees. But we're not really necessarily looking for all that. We're just looking for a good employee compensation survey and study. I think we'll get that with all three of them.
The only thing that I see with the Amy cell under rate schedule and cost estimate, it says we expect total cost of the project to not exceed $7,800. They expect that, but it could go north of that.
Well, I mean, we could put a cap on it too.
Yeah.
And
That's
tell them
what I
they've got to
would
provide what
want.
we asked for in the cost if they want to accept the agreement.
Yeah. I'd want a cap.
We just put in the motion not to exceed, and then I'll call her and
Yeah.
tell her, hey, this is where we're capped.
So one thing about Amy Cell too, they're basically saying 8 to 10 weeks. So if it's 10 weeks, you got a total of 70 days. I know GovHR was 120, so you're talking almost 2 additional months.
I think with Amy Cell as well, you have a smaller company that's newer but not brand new. They look like they're maybe 8, 9 years old. So it's not like they didn't just start their company and don't know really what they're doing. It would be a local, smaller company that I think would give you, I feel like would do a good job. And I'd make a motion to approve Amy Cell in the amount not to exceed 7,800 if there'd be a support.
A motion supported. Discussion, Ms. Hirschberger?
I just want to say, if you're capping it, she says right here, travel expenses are not included in this project.
Well,
And any other
this
fees.
project will be executed remotely.
For the most part, yeah.
And Ypsilanti's closer than Illinois.
I just want to point that out. I don't,
Fees generated by Freedom of Information requests are not included.
Yeah, that's why they're not included is because they're doing it remotely.
So
I
if we
believe
just
she's
give the
gonna
information she requires, we wouldn't.
but I believe she is going to come for a meeting. I thought there was something in here that she would have an in-person. It wouldn't be all remote.
Well, why don't we make it not to exceed 8,000 and throw a little bit in there for travel or, the
I
FOIA.
just don't want to cap it and then, well, then I can't do it for that and we're done.
If it does exceed, like
come
come
back.
back to the board.
Depending on how much it exceeds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't we say 8,000 and then if it's,
I'll accept it at 8.
I'll
Accept it at 8. Let's leave it at that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's
any
good.
more comments, discussion, anything else?
I would say just maybe, if we do accept this, and if,
As a question.
I would make the phone call to her and just say, hey, if we do need you to travel, what would you charge us? And that way we can get ahead of it and make sure that we get it updated higher than 8,000 if necessary. But if it goes up to, 9,000, then it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. I can't imagine traveling from Ypsilanti to charge much more than 100, but who knows? We'll find out.
And I would want to make sure that clarification that we don't have to provide all of this. That
Do you want to communicate with her?
Al's been
Al's
communicating.
been? We can-
Yeah.
okay.
But I think that we should, just clarification that we don't have to go dig up all these comparables, that we can just answer
Well,
questions.
So do you want us to table it, or what would you like, Trudy?
There's a motion on the table now.
There's a motion and we can approve it, but I think if it's different than what we're interpreting,
Why don't we have a
that we
meeting?
have it come back.
Why don't we have a phone call meeting with her tomorrow with the Personnel Committee and we'll,
Yeah. If
it's something
everyone's
drastic,
okay with
we'll,
that.
put on the next board, but if not, we'll move forward.
I'm fine.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Just tell her, we're going to put it in writing. This is the amount that the board has approved. Any fees in addition to this amount must be approved in advance by the board, including but not limited to travel expenses, mileage, meeting attendance, has to be approved in advance by the board.
You can make that part of your agenda or meeting or motion.
Motion,
Can I make one more friendly amendment? That we say that this is going to come out of the fund balance, this money?
The general
Because it
fund.
wasn't budgeted. So if we don't say fund balance, because it's not in the general, it has to come out of the fund balance. Are you both okay with that?
Fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Did you have something?
That was my question.
Okay.
Request to have it come out of the fund balance.
I would also leave the door open when, if Trudy speaks with her tomorrow and finds out that there's going to be an extraordinary amount of work for her staff or township staff to perform that was unexpected, once it gets drilled down, that you leave the door open at the next meeting to rescind the motion. If it's not what you expect it to be, that you leave
If it's
that
way
door
out of
open.
whack, I would agree.
That doesn't have to be in the motion, but I'm just floating that out there so that's some food for thought for you to consider, because I don't want you to feel obligated if you find out later that, or tomorrow morning, for example, that this is nowhere near what we expected, and we're not going to, provide all the data for you to sit in your office.
Yeah, if we're going to do it ourselves, we might as well do it ourselves.
Right, exactly.
That's why I guess I assumed that these are basic requests. Like, you can't say, "Oh, I expected you to go do all that." They're requesting, "Can you provide some information and be available if they need you?" That's how I took it.
If that's the case, we just don't execute the agreement.
Right.
And we'll know after a phone call tomorrow. At that point, we could put a halt to it, and we'll put it on the next agenda.
Fine with all that.
Fine with that. Yep.
All right. And you've accepted all the friendly amendments?
That's a long motion, but yeah. We're good.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8F, purchase of a ventilation fan for the fire department. Chief?
Good evening. So we are requesting to replace one of the ventilation fans that we had that was originally purchased in 1992. We are looking at, we already have one of these, an electric fan. The advantage to these is with the amount of apartments that we have right now, we can actually take it inside the apartment, and if we have something burning on the stove, we can clear it out that way. Versus a gas fan, we can't do that. So with the quotes that we received, we were at $55.77 plus shipping. So right now the request would be out of the 211 capital outlay budget to approve up to $6,000, which would include the fan and then shipping.
They sell box fans right at do it best.
That would be a lot easier.
$30.
They're lighter, too.
They are much lighter.
Get six, you get 36, 34
Yes.
of them.
You're replacing a 30-year-old fan.
Correct.
If we spend $6K and get another 30 years out of it, we'll get our money.
They don't make things like they did in 92.
Which would be the hope. Yeah, exactly. I don't know that we would, but yes, we are replacing a 1992 fan. So, and if you knew, at Station 2 has had a very extensive maintenance program for many, many, many years. That Mr. Burning could even tell you on that. So that's why we have been able to extend some of the life of the engines.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Go ahead and make a motion that we purchase a Supervac V18 BL12 fan from, what is that, Dings Fire Company?
Correct.
The amount of $5,000, I'll strike that, not to exceed $6,000, which includes $5,577 for the fan, and then shipping on top of that, and it'll come out of the 211 capital outlay budget.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Montroy.
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8G, approval to hire James S. Jacobs, architect, to do a remodel design and cost estimate for the maintenance building at 9100 Lewis Avenue. I'm going to let Mr. Goldsmith speak to this issue as we've been in conversations with the county and Ms. Hirschberger, myself, with the building. So that's why it's back here.
Okay, thank you. So we're 95% of the way there. I'd like to thank Trudy, who's done a lot of, and I think Krista helped her too, and maybe even Paul, not to exclude the three of you. But I know Trudy did a lot of research in some ancient township meeting minutes, documents going way back into the early 80s to determine where the funds came from to purchase the building. So without getting into all the details, I'll fast forward today. It appears that we're going to receive the Whitman Ford building actually it was, we've determined that it was purchased with money, principally with money that was that came from the federal government when the original Bedford Township sewer system was built here in Bedford Township. And actually some general fund monies, it appears, was used for that purchase. So the Bedford Township sewer system is a Public Act 142 project. It's overseen and operated by county agency. When we approved it, county agency and the County of Monroe provided full faith and credit in their bonding strength, all of that. Back in those days, I think it was Bill Winson who represented county agency. It was deeded to the County of Monroe when it was acquired, but it was actually acquired as part of, and the terminology was used, an extension of the Bedford Township sewer disposal system. And the theory was, and the rationale that the federal government approved is an extension of the sewer system to have a building that would house and protect and preserve assets of the sewer system, such as the vac trucks and other equipment. And so with that as a backdrop, I'm confident that the title, which is right now held by the County of Monroe, and really the County of Monroe has no interest in that, no legal interest in that building, but nonetheless, they hold title. They're going to have to approve the transfer, and I believe they will. We've had discussion with David Thompson, the Drain Commissioner, Tim Sergo, the Deputy Drain Commissioner. I think as late as yesterday, when Tim and I spoke, I think we're on the pretty much all on the same page, and the transfer will occur.
With board approval.
With board approval. It's going to take our board to approve it. It's going to take the county agency to approve it. I think we're there. And I had a conversation today with Mike Bosonic at the county, and I think we're all pretty much on the same page. There's a few wrinkles maybe to be worked out, but the long and short of it is I believe that building will be transferred into Bedford Township's name. So having said that, I've also had conversations with Jim Jacobs, and you know, I've laid it out to him, Jim, if this happens, the first thing that we need to do, and I want to do, and it'll be in any transfer agreement between the county and us, is that we're going to address environmental concerns that we have. That building was the former Whitman Ford garage where oil changes occurred, where mechanic work occurred, where body work occurred, where solvents were used for body work, all of that. So, and Trudy was able in her research to determine, we believe there were a couple of underground storage tanks removed that were used for a repository of used motor oil, and then the company comes in, pumps it out. So, so we need to protect ourselves from any environmental concerns. So I've talked to Jim Jacobs about that. He preliminarily told me that there may be some grant money available for us to use if we take title to that building, which would allow us to clean up if there's anything to be cleaned up. So that's important to me, and it's important to the township. I know it's important to Lamar because we've talked about these things before. So with all that as a backdrop, I'm comfortable with you approving a relationship with Jim to get started on this, to see what that building can be used for, what the renovation costs, you know, determine what you're going to use it for. Once that's determined what the renovation costs will be. And so that's the first step in this. So I'm comfortable with you approving it if you are so inclined tonight.
So just so the board knows, the money that we would pay would be put in our sewer fund. It wouldn't be paid to the county.
No, that's correct, because it
We'd
was
be paying our own sewer fund.
any money that we pay put it in simple terms, we're going to take it out of our left pocket and put it in our right pocket. It's going to go back into the sewer fund because that's where the money came from in the first instance that was provided for the Bedford Township Sewer Fund. No, the county didn't pay any money for it. The drain commissioner didn't pay any money for it. It's a public act project, and the county agency oversees it, but using our money that was dedicated for the use of Bedford Township. So again, if we were doing this today, that property would not be deeded in the county's name. It is. They know why it was done that way historically. They know they didn't contribute any funds to purchase that building, nor did the drain office, but it came from the sewer funds. And our sewer fund is doing fine. It's basically self-sustaining. What we collect from the users is sufficient to pay our debt service, and so we're doing fine with that. But that money will go in there and could be used for debt service, or it could be used for capital improvement, or it could be used for whatever our board here approves its use for, so long as it's used for the sewer fund.
Is it okay to talk about the number we've been discussing?
Well, the number is $115,000, and that's historically based on what was the money that was paid to the Whitman Ford Corporation or the Whitman Ford family at that time. It won't exceed that amount. Let me put it that way. It will not exceed that amount.
So the point is why it's here is extremely reasonable, to acquire the building, and take a look at what it would take to renovate it. At a minimum, I mean, whether we keep it, build a new one, and put a facade on it. At that point, if we did want to move it down the road, we could control, what goes there if we ever sell it, kind of and multiple locations. I mean, whatever, so.
The reason we're going to take the money out of our left pocket, so to speak, and put it in our right pocket is that money goes into the Bedford Township Sewer Fund. That's where it came from originally. That's where it needs to go. That way, you don't have to use that building for the Bedford Township sewer system. You can use it for any valid township use you choose. That's part of the explanation behind that.
Mr. Steiner?
So Phil, 115,000. How much of that was public act money, and how much was township, or was the township portion 115?
We believe all of that money was funded. There may have been some general fund money put into that. And we don't know exactly how much that was precisely. And Trudy found that through her research through the records. None of it was county agency money, zero. Anything else was federal money that was provided to the township by grant to construct the sewer system, which we were basically mandated to do. That money became available. I shouldn't use the word mandated. That money became available back within that time frame to construct a sanitary sewer system. So none of the money came from Monroe County, and none of the money came from county agency. County agency is involved under the Public Act because they basically run the system for us, which actually, Trudy and I have talked about it. We could take it over once our current bond is paid, but why would we? Because they do a good job running it by and large, and that would be a major undertaking for us to take over the operation, maintenance, and running of the system when county agency under the Public Act does it for us.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is, again, if it was 115, let's just say 50,000 came out of the general and the rest was federal dollars. So to take money out of the right pocket for the left pocket, would we be taking the full 115, or would you take the balance? Because if the general fund already paid 50,
you would deduct that from the 115.
Okay, that's why I'm asking it. So the clarification is, we wouldn't go another whole 115. We would take the difference of what we put in versus the federal dollars.
What whatever came out of Bedford Township's general fund, whatever came out. And it's a little confusing now, we're still looking at it, because there was a motion made by the township board, and then 2 days later, a motion was made to rescind the motion that was made 2 days earlier. And we're working through that to make sure we know exactly, because if it's determined that any amount came out of the general fund, we paid for that. So all we have to do is pay back the money that came from the sewer fund to the sewer fund. So it would be 115 less that amount.
Right. And that's all I was just trying to clarify.
Yeah, and it's a good point of clarification.
Yeah, when I was going through all the minutes, when they rescinded, then there's talk about the general fund covering so much. So at this point, the max would be 115. The lesser amount would be the grant money, which I can't remember if it was 86 or 89.
So my guess wasn't too far off.
So we're in a much better position, I think, than we originally thought we were in. And everybody seems to accept that at the county level. Again, thanks to Trudy.
Phil's right. Trudy did a ton of research on this.
Her hands are still dirty.
And it's to go back and comb through all those meeting minutes back in the early '80s to find this stuff was, that was.
We all had kind of an idea of, Paul Francis used to talk about it all the time. He didn't have details, but Trudy, she really brought a lot to light. So, good job.
I'll make a motion.
Any other questions on Jim Jacobs? Or it was talked about. So while he's doing this, to add that as part of it.
Yeah, that's what we talked about at that meeting.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve to hire James S. Jacobs, architect, to do a remodel design and cost estimate for the maintenance building at 9100 Lewis Avenue, not to exceed the amount of $3,000.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8H, approve the permit for the June 2023 fireworks display.
So, I don't know if anybody else wants to talk on it.
No, go
Okay.
ahead. I've told these guys at multiple meetings, every time you have a quote to present, anything having to do with the park board, one of you guys need to be here. You can see, nobody shows up.
I have a question, and this would be more directed towards the chief.
It's approved.
What's that?
It's approved. He approved it.
Well, I understand that, but with some drought conditions going on and things like that, when do you say no? We're going to back off because it's too dry. We haven't had any rain in so long.
So what we'll do is we'll look for just the Michigan weather on that one. What they do is they put out an outlook every day. So we would talk to them. We'd also look with the company. The company does this, many times a year. Our experience is really once a year with it. So we would probably also look for direction of the company.
Okay.
On
Better have some rain by then.
Yeah.
If not, they got a fire truck that can let the ground pretty easily.
And we have done that in years past also.
Okay.
So.
Any more comments, questions?
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with anything, but this is the first time this is at
No, they've done
this location? It's where I didn't remember.
It's back after a couple few
because
years.
when they were redoing, building up the school, so they couldn't have the fireworks back there.
Yeah.
They've done it there at Indian Creek before.
Okay.
I want to get some of these 8-inch cells.
Yeah, look for a motion.
You gotta have a license for that. I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the permit for the June 2023 fireworks display.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Comments from the public? Comments limited to 2 minutes.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. With respect to the maintenance garage, you folks better do a phase one immediately if you think you're going to get anywhere involved with that thing. It was an automotive repair shop, and all you have to look at history is when you bought this piece of property at Jackman and Smith. Next thing you know, you had a phase one, you had to do a phase two. You don't know what's going to be there. You don't know if you're going to have a brownfield when you're done, because the bank at the corner of Lewis and Temperance found out they had a brownfield. So don't be running off here and spending a whole lot of money before you understand what the environmental impact might be at that facility. It could be ugly, because you could find oil all over the place, gasoline all over the place, who knows what else. I was listening to you intently when you were talking about whether or not you're going to do this compensation study. I don't think you know how much time you're going to spend internally before these people go out to do any work whatsoever. Because look, they've said be available for scheduled meetings and work sessions. Provide input in creating a list of comparable cities in Michigan. Well, they mean townships. You're going to have job descriptions for each of these people. If you don't have now, you better put one together, because they're going to have to go out and find comparables. This is not an easy project, folks. You're going to spend a lot of time internally just to find out where you go. And then when you come back and say, well, we're going to give all these people a raise, the union's going to be right in here saying, where's mine? Thank you.
Okay.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. First off, thanks for answering my questions. I appreciate that, and I think we are owed that. I'm sorry. Number two, I read it as the township will provide. That means you're going to provide the person you're paying to do this work your services without charge. But I'm glad to see that you guys all debated, and I liked to see that. It went well. Thirdly, if you sell what used to be Whitman's showroom, which is why Mr. Francis knew about it, because he was part of the Whitman family tree, if you go to sell it, you're going to need to disclose it if Jacob finds that it is dirty. And there are grants if you clean things up, because that's what happened to Loga's Marathon Station. They cleaned it up, turned around, sold it to somebody. It's now dirty again. I also felt that I needed to clarify. I don't come here to complain or to cause trouble. I'm doing my civic duty, and I'm asking questions, and I have other people out there in the world that appreciate what I do. But I don't appreciate when I'm attacked or accused of lying. My comment about the local businesses, there was no mention made about it being a motion. I just said the comments keep getting made, whether it be at the planning level or here at this level. And it was kind of implied that I was lying or making things up or full of half-truths. Not so, which is why I've been forced to get FOIAs to prove my points, and I shouldn't have to do that. I should not have to come under or worry about coming under attack here. So I want to refer to you the township meeting on YouTube on April 18th. At 33.36 mark, where the comment says, this doesn't have any bearing on how I will vote.
Thank you very much for your comments, but
please use
public comment this time is over. Any more comments from the public?
'71, '78 Wilshire Drive, Josh Stump. 79 years ago, June 6, 1944, Operation Overlord D-Day. I know we get caught up in our day-to-day lives and how busy we are. Just take time to think about the great generation. You know, very grateful for all the young men that stormed the beaches of Normandy. Looking at their generation compared to my generation, it's pretty disappointing and sad. So just thankful to all of them and the greatest generation, and thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay. Comments from board members? Mr. Bruning?
No, nothing to add. Everyone have a good weekend.
Microphone's up. I threw you off by starting.
Yeah,
down here.
started with me. No, nothing to add. Everyone have a good weekend. Again, remember, say thanks today for what it is, D-Day. French can thank us for not speaking German. Everyone have a good day, good night, good week, good month.
Okay. Mr. Gore?
Thank you, Lamar. Thank you, Joe. You're welcome. Congratulations to all the graduates from Bedford on Sunday. Bedford had their class of 2023 graduation. I wish all the graduates well. Great future ahead of them. They just got to get after it and get out there and get it done. Everybody else, I hope everybody has a great week, couple weeks.
Mr. Montron?
I would just say that I echo that I appreciate and echo Mr. Stump's sentiments. Like considering D-Day and considering our generation in comparison to the greatest generation, and it was something that my wife and I were just reflecting on recently. We've lost a couple of people just that we know, not super close to family or anything, but it's definitely something that America should consider, is that we're slowly losing that generation completely, and the future needs to toughen up a little bit. The current generations need to toughen up a little bit and consider that, or we're in for worse than what we're already in. So I just appreciate his sentiment and would like to echo that.
Okay, Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, Mr. Stump beat me to the D-Day. That was my opening comment tonight. It is not just the greatest generation 79 years ago. We still have a military force out there today that we should be thankful for. We've got every day. And it's not just from many moons ago. You know, obviously, Mr. Frederick, Joe, anybody that has served. Thank you for what you've done and what you still do community-wise and everything else today. Last thing I want to do is say, recognize that 2 granddaughters had their first softball game ever last weekend, and they did a tremendous job. So for their very first time out, kudos to the kids and power to the girls.
Okay, Ms. Janizek?
I just want to echo with D-Day, thank you. And you just can't, say enough about, the people who serve, and I appreciate it. And also with the seniors who graduated this year, congratulations. That includes my son, Mr. Bruning's son, and Mr. Gore's son. I'm proud of all the seniors, and just have a good rest of your week.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but we can both do it.
It's okay.
June 14th from 3 to 7 p.m. will be hazardous waste and secure shredding at Indian Park. At the Senior Center this Saturday, June 10th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. will be the Strawberry Festival. So go get your strawberry shortcake.
2 for 2. Keep going. I might not have any comments.
Township Hall will be closed on Monday, June 19th, to observe the federal holiday, Juneteenth. To answer Lamar's question, we do have all the job descriptions. We actually did that before coming to the board and asking about this. We went around and we updated every single job description, so we do have those. Last, I just want to tell Landon, my grandson, happy 5th birthday.
I'm not sure if Mr. Frederick heard, but we are going to do a phase 1 study. I mean, it's part of it. We know we're going to do it. And with the roundabout, it wasn't, oh my gosh, we're going to have to do a phase 1. Oh, phase 2. We knew we were going to do that too. It's no surprise. We know what we're getting into. This board does this due diligence, makes a lot of good decisions. And I think with the building, I think we'll look into the best option with it and do our due diligence. So Trudy did get me on the June 14th. I get a lot of calls on the cleanup. So if you have any questions about any of the cleanups, you can always contact the Monroe Health Department and ask them. There's been a lot of discussion online about the new Dollar General coming on Lewis Avenue. Why'd we approve that? What is wrong with this board?
Yeah, Joe.
If you own a piece of property in this community and it is zoned for what it's zoned for, C1, C2, C3, residential, you have every right to put whatever you want on there within the zoning ordinance. So if Dollar General wants to buy up every single piece of commercial property and put $300 Dollar Generals in this board's not going to stop them. So people have rights to their properties. If you like your view, buy it. Because something could go there. So a subdivision, a PUD, people have rights to properties. They pay taxes on it. So, when we hear this board did not approve Dollar General. The times we have to control growth is through zonings. And we did that. We exercised that when Tractor Supply went in. We changed the zoning, right, board? Changed the zoning, and that allowed it to give them enough room and frontage what they needed, right, Phil? Am I saying that right? And then obviously Strawberry Festival is this Saturday. It's a great time. Be safe if you are going to go and park on the side of the road. It's a truck route. Traffic does kind of move through there, semis. Thank all the veterans as well, the seniors. I do want to make mention of the farmers market. It's going on every Saturday. It's been going on, I believe this is their 10th year. They have street tacos. Vendors range from coffee, vegetables, maple syrup, just to name a few. The market's located at United Methodist Church at the corner of Dean and Douglas. Bob, thank you so much for all your hard work on the budget. We look at it, we see it, but we have no idea. You put a lot of work into that thing, and really appreciate it. Other than that, conversations are happening. I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock on the final kind of roundabout discussions with the roundabout, so I look for that to be coming back to this board. Been getting asked about Secor Road with the widening. The road commission does have the money in their fund budget for that project. Not sure when a start date is on it. It's supposedly going to be a 2024 project, but they're moving on a lot of it right now. The sidewalks for Jackman Road are at the road commission right now. So that's a project that'll be moving forward. Hopefully this summer we'll be seeing a lot of construction happening with that. And we just got all the information on all the other sidewalks that this board approved to move forward. We'll be getting cost estimates that'll be coming, I would think, in the next few weeks or so, right, Bob? Few weeks we'll be seeing cost estimates coming back. So other than that, Jim Jacobs, will talk to him. We should in the next week have good information from him, and then he'll know after tonight, so we can keep moving on the other maintenance building. But things are moving along. Parking lot, we stepped back a little bit and hired Manikin Smith to look at the parking lot as a whole and look at a lot of the drains we have. They let us know that the parking lot doesn't need a crack seal. It doesn't need sealed again. It just needs a lot of the manholes fixed. So we're going to put that out for bid again and bring it back to this board. But there's a lot more to parking lots than just sealing them every year. You could do more damage to them sealing them every year. So I'm glad we got with Manikin Smith and just to get a determination. Other than that, things are going very well. Township's busy. So, any comments, questions? Okay.
Is Samaria Days that same weekend with that festival? Mm-hmm. So that's just another thing with that festival.
Yeah, I think it's together, right? Yeah. So it's a great time. Go support your seniors. Buy some strawberry shortcake, and so all right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, adjourned.